Welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing power tools. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about drill bits. All right? We have an assortment of different types of drill bits, and we're going to take one at a time and discuss it. Now, this drill bit is known as your auger bit. All right? Things to be sure of. If you have a small set of files, you want to keep this nice and sharp on this edge, the cutting edge, as well as on this edge right here. The other thing is be sure that all your debris is out of the threaded screw here, because if you have old wood in there or burnt wood, it prevents it from doing its job correctly, because when you set that into the hole, it's going to move forward on you, and if it's plugged up, it's just going to sit there and spin, and you're going to have to put more pressure against the tool. You also know at the tang back here, all right, the end of the shaft, there are different setups, and every manufacturer makes a different one, but just to be sure that the tools that you're buying fit the drill that you're using, okay? The next one is known as a spade bit or paddle bit. Everybody has a little bit different name of them, but they'll go, when you go into the store to buy them, you say paddle or spade bit and they'll understand what you're talking about. Again, a small file set. We'll keep this nice and sharp at the right angle. All right, try to always stay with the angle that came with it originally. All right, make sure that the shaft isn't bent. All right, again, this has that shaft in the back that looks like the screwdrivers for quick release and stuff like that. This will work on almost any of the small drills. All right. Forstner bit. Now the Forstner bit, just like the paddle bit, will cut holes. All these will cut holes. The question you have to ask yourself is, what type of hole and how neat is that hole going to have to be? Forstner bits are typically used for rough work and for fine work. So try not to, buy this and then use it for furniture making and then go use it for drilling holes through 2x4s. Yeah, not the best. They do make an angle drill that has hole cutting saws in them, and they're the better ones that do the big holes for your 2x4s and 2x6s. But again, always keep it nice and sharp. Small file, all right, low whetstone, do wonders. All right. Now, typically we use this for cabinet making, just really fine work. And if you notice, all of these drills, all the drill bits, excuse me, have tips on them. That becomes important when you're trying to decide what type of work you're doing. Is it going to be seen by somebody or not? They'll all drive right through the board, all right? But if you want a finished look, that little tip is going to go through the lumber, and when you see it first appear, that's when you want to stop if it's really crucial for cosmetic reasons. All right. Then we have the masonry bit. Now, this thing has seen its days, but it's still working. All right. You want to ensure that the tip, it's a carbide tip on these things, so that the cutting flange will be a little larger than the drill bit itself. But you'll also know that it has these swirls in them that remove the concrete in this case. All right. Make sure that the carbide tips are still left on this and they're not totally rounded out. Okay. Now this can go towards a normal rotary drill or a hammer drill. All right. Either one will do just fine. But make sure that the end of the shaft is designed for that tool. Everybody makes a little bit different slotted drill bits for masonry, and this is typically a giveaway for a hammer drill. All right. You can buy the cheaper ones that look like this, but they have the fully rounded shaft. All right. That's the homeowner type drill bits, but they work the same way. All right. If you're doing a lot of work, you're gonna need a hammer drill. All right. Finally, we have our twist bits. All right. The twist bits, they're either wood or metal. Some come in as a combination, but personally, I always keep my wood bits separate from my metal bits. The metal bits, you want to be sure that you keep them separate. They'll cut through wood, but you go put a wood bit into metal and it isn't going to be long before it deteriorates. Plus, depending on the type of steel that you're cutting through, you may have to go farther out on the pitch of the cutting surface the harder the material is. That's why wood bits typically are, I want to say, a 67-degree angle compared to masonry bits that are more flat and have a carbide tip on them. All right, and they normally go out, don't hold me to this, but it's like 103 degrees or something. All right, and each drill bit is designed for a specific task. All right, now I'm going to show you what you're going to end up doing out in our training facility using these tools. There's a lot of videos out there and you can follow with those guys and do more upgrading of your skills. But I want you to know the 5 types of drill bits, and now I'm going to show you how to use 2 of the drills that we have on hand here. One is your standard battery, 18-volt battery operated drill. All right. Now here's something that I want you to understand. When you're using our equipment in here, we never really know if the battery's good or not. So if it's getting low, all you have to do is go down to the battery packs and plug it in. It's all set up for you. Then grab a new one. They're in the drawer. We'll get it. You can grab it, no problem, and your drill is working fine. All right. So we're going to discuss that. Then we're going to be discussing the heavy-duty drill. All right. Now this typically is for wood. All right, because it doesn't have the pounding action like a masonry hammer would have. All right. But we're going to get to that masonry hammer later on. But for right now, I'm going to show you what we want you to do out at the lab exercise. So here's our battery operated drill. Now we have numerous types, and we're not going to go through all the different types, but they all function the same way. Be sure you understand all the parts of the drill. Understand that there's the little clips, and I want you to get your hands on these so that you understand what you want to use when you get out into the field. All right. There's better quality drills than others. All right. But of all the equipment, this is the most expensive part of this thing. Sometimes you can even get the whole drill case, drills, batteries, 2 of them, for what you're going to pay for one battery. Don't ask me, I'm not the salesperson, but all right. But again, these batteries are available up in the front. Just take it, exchange it, and you're ready to go. The next thing that I want you to know is all these toolboxes that we have that have the drill boxes in them, they all should have the same thing in them. All right? And we try to stay with a standard Phillips head screwdriver. All right, it's dual head, as you can see. This is a higher steel, so that it will not allow, I shouldn't say it will not allow, but it won't, it holds up a lot better than your standard oxidized, black oxidized drill bits or the little silver ones. These hold up a lot better. Trust me, we've been doing this for a long time. And this is like an Army test area, you know, if we can find out if it's going to survive. All right. Then you have your 1/4 inch and your 5/16 nut drivers, and they're magnetic. All right, because you will use them eventually in the classroom. All right. So if those three things are not in the box, let me or somebody else know, and we'll replace it right then and there. Now the question, let me get this out of the way here for a second. As you notice, all right, some drills have the side capacity for both Phillips and the standard screwdrivers. This just happens to have one. We just leave them in there. Maybe someday you might need to use a Phillips. Also, it has the speeds. Right now we're in first speed, and then, or correction, first speed, second speed. All right, depending on what type of material you're cutting. Wood normally go with the first speed. Steel, you're going to go faster, but remember, whenever you're cutting steel with a drill bit, always use oil. Always. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be cutting oil. Just oil that will have the temperature rating so that it can cool off that drill bit. And when you're drilling steel, you'll drill it, and then you'll see that it becomes shiny. That's the time to add the water, or the oil, excuse me. Add the oil, all right? Because when it's shiny silver, there's no protection for the drill bit, all right? Here we are. Be sure that you got it in the forward or reverse mode that you're using. Now when you're tightening up the drill bits, you want to be in the forward motion, okay? That means it's going clockwise. So insert your drill bit into your chuck and gently hold the chuck with your fingers and hit the trigger slowly. Because if this thing goes too fast, it'll leave a burn mark on your hand, okay? There's a lot of power on some of these. And then just hold it so that you can firm it up. The other thing that you just heard was this has torque settings. Now you won't be able to see that on this, I don't think, but when you get up to it, look at it, because normally they go from 1 to whatever, 20. All right, this one goes to 23, and then there's a symbol here for a drill bit. All right, now the drill bit symbol is used for drilling wood or metal. If you want to torque a screw down or insert a screw without stripping it, then you want to move that, and I'm going to do it real lightly so you can see what happens. All right, I got it set at 3. Now your task, all right, at this moment is to insert a wood screw of some sort. Doesn't really matter. But what you do want to be sure of is that the head of this drill bit, or screwdriver bit, is the same size as the screw that you're trying to insert into the wood. It should have a good solid grip. All right? Try not, what most people do is they use the standard number 2 bit, for everything. Well, if you're trying to put a number 3 screw in, all right, which means the size of the screw head, all right, the screwdriver head, in a number 2, you're just going to strip it all out. It won't even fit hardly. Now that's not to say that somebody won't make it fit. All right, that's the same thing with putting a number 1 into a number 2 hole. All right, not going to work. All right. So what we want to do is get our glasses, our gloves, and the reason, and I mean, the reason that I put the drill bits in or screwdriver bits in without my gloves on, because this is turning all the time, all right? And it can get caught up in here. Now, some people will disagree with that theory, okay? All right, but be very careful what you're working on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a second, and we want to put our screw into this piece of 2x4. This is one of your tasks. All right. So remember, I have it at a very small torque rate. I don't even know how far this will go. All right. But I insert it. I have it leveled. All right. I put a little pressure against it and just hit the trigger slowly. Now you hear that? You see that it's moving, but it's not putting a screw in. That means that the torque on this is too low. So I want to ramp it up. All right? I got on 13 now. Now you always want screws to be below the surface of your work. Now you notice at 13 setting brought it right into the wood. Again, there's too many variables here. Practice makes perfect. This is a 2x4 knotty pine, excess material. It's still kind of wet, so it will go in pretty easy. But if that's been sitting out in the sun and it's dried out, little tricks. Now, the little tricks of the trade is if you're trying to get into something, it could be hardwood or wood that's been sitting out for a while, have a bar of soap with you. Put the screw into the soap, and what most people do is just drill right into the soap. So it's all full, and then insert it right into the wood, and it's a lubricant. It's not going to hurt anything, and it just goes right in. Now, when you want to remove the screw, put it in the reverse mode. Check it. Be sure that you're in the reverse mode. That's counterclockwise. Insert it into the screw head, and again, the same way you took it or put it in, take it out. All right. Now, we have all different variations. So depending on which drill you have, or at that moment, we'll decide on how you go about doing it. But they're all basically the same type of drill. All right. Again, when you go to release it, hold on to the chuck and give it a little bit of a push on the trigger, and it'll walk the screwdriver or the drill bit right off. All right. That's the what I would consider to be the light duty, all-purpose drill. All right. And this is the older version. The newer versions that we have are lighter. They take a different battery. Do not exchange this battery for a smaller battery. They go with certain types of units, so don't just throw it into any charger. All right. So that's something that you need to pay close attention to. All right. Now remember, I'm showing you what you have to do or will do. What I don't want to happen is you just to go through the drill and just do the exercise, really not understanding what you're trying to really do. If you have questions, you bring it up to us at that time. All right? We are here to ensure that you understand fluently what these pieces of equipment can do, because some of them are real dangerous. All right? Now we're going to move over and talk about the heavy duty drill. Okay? Let me get this thing off here. Now you notice how I'm taking care of my tools. I expect the same thing out of the students. All right? You notice that we have it taped, and that's typically how you're going to find them. All right? Because if it isn't taped to the cord, it's going to get lost. All right? They do have the little rubber grommet drill chuck keys holders, I guess you call them. But you know, you're working and it breaks off pretty easy. All right. What you want to be sure of is that nobody's done a great deal of damage to your prongs here. All right. You want to be sure that they're all straight, and if they're not, gently bring them back to point. Check the cord, ensure that there's no cuts, gashes in them. All right. That they're still attached. All right. Again, like I said, this is the heavy duty drill. Down here we have not the speeds, but it's a forward and a reverse. All right. Because when you're working with this size of drill, you got a lot of torque on that baby. All right. And what I want you to understand is this tool probably has more torque than you have upper body strength. All right. So if you drill into a knot, be very, very careful on how going into that with what type of drill bit. Just because you got power on your side does not mean anything. This thing will flip you over very easily. It'll snap an arm if you get into the wrong stuff, especially steel. So we want to be sure we're forward or in the reverse depending on what we're trying to do. Our trigger, all right, same components, just larger. Our chuck, we want to make sure that the jaws keep coming up and down. And the other thing that you need to know is the chuck key needs to fit into the openings properly. Don't use the wrong key, all right? They say they sell this universal one. Well, hey, you know, better luck, all right? Because if you start stripping the chuck out, you got real issues, all right? This one, because it has so much power, it has the handle. It has a grip handle to it as well, all right? It also has the shoulder or hand handle grip to it, so that when you're drilling, you got good capability of holding on to the equipment. All right. So this I would not use in trying to put screws into. Okay, common sense. All right. Plus you'd be tired by the end of the time you're doing it. But what we're going to do, and what you're going to do, is you're going to use the auger bit. All right. So the auger bit again slides in there, and this time, all right, we want you to just bring it up, snug it, all right, and now we're going to use the chuck key. It doesn't, you can't hold this chuck, all right, and make sure that you know, you don't have to get crazy tight, but just be sure that it's firmed up. If you start stripping it, you're probably looking at doing it wrong anyway. All right, so now we get our glasses back on, our gloves, and again, OSHA says that you need to have the gloves on. I say okay, but it's also going to determine on what you're trying to get accomplished here. Now, if you're drilling steel, yeah, have them on, because those shavings will burn you. All right. Of course, we're not going to be using this drill bit on steel, but you have to constantly think, what am I trying to get accomplished here? Now this is 120 volt. They come up in 208, 220 volt systems. All right, big heavy duty drills. But we're going to do the same thing, and I'm going to do two drills here. One drill, I'm just going to push all the way through. The other drill hole that I'm going to make, I'm going to go through until I see the screw on the other side, and then pull that out and come in from the other side, and you'll see the difference in the size of hole or the types of holes that made. Now we do have electrical, and typically you'll be doing this outside, and we do have electrical cords out there. Alright, so the first thing that you want to do is check to be sure that it's not locked. And these heavy duty drills typically cannot be locked. Alright, that's a safety feature in them. Because the last thing you want to do is have one of these babies in a lock position triggered and on. Okay, so now we have this in our hands and we're ready to go. Now, you can hold it like this, but I suggest that you use the tool as it's designed. You see my chest is up against my handle. I can position this so I can still see the drill bit. All right. Don't put your face in here, all right, because if this grabs, it's going to twist. And you can see, and trust me, from personal experience, the drill is still sticking there and I'm picking my butt up off the floor, all right? So what you want to do again, find the hole that where you want to drill and hit the trigger slightly, and you'll see that the screw portion with a little pressure will start inserting into the wood. All right? As that does that, you'll see that it grabs because the sharpness of this bit, it'll just run right through here. All right? Remember, this one I'm just going to punch all the way through. So, again, firm grip. All right, now I'm through. Remember, this drill has the forward and reverse. All right? Again, you got to hold on to it and pull it out. All right? Once it stops, put it back in the forward position. Now we're going to go drill another hole, but then I'm going to stop when the screw bit starts to show up on the other side. Okay. Again, soft touch. Now here, you see where it's starting to come through a little bit? Well, then all I want to do is just get it going a little bit further. All right, it's broken the surface. I want to put it back in reverse, pull it out. I step around, put it back in forward, and now my screw is being inserted into the hole that it produced coming out. I follow that hole. Put it in reverse. Now, let's look at these things. Here's the one hole that we punched right through. Okay? Both of them, because, and you'll understand why. This is 2x4 material, really cheap lumber. You're not going to get a perfect cut, all right, unless you're on like a pedestal standing drill stand. But you notice how when you're coming through here, it will just tear off the lumber. This tool, and along with the right angle drill that they talk about in the book, all right, those are really designed for this type of work, 2x4s. All right, they'll get a hole saw They're better designed for it. But they still, whenever you're going through 2x4 or really cheap wood, it's going to splinter. All right? Doesn't matter how sharp that bit is. All right? So, just be aware, and we want you to try to understand, hey, learn how to do both of these things. Do not take this tool, and I'm going to unplug it here. Some students want to manhandle this, all right? So they push it through, and instead of just taking the time to put it in reverse and let it come out, you'll see them fighting this thing, all right? No. Please do not do that, all right? It's not worth the aggravation. So now we want to take it apart. Also, the maintenance on these things, all right? We don't want you to do any maintenance. I take care of all of that myself. If something happens to any of our tools at any time, you notify the instructor or myself, and we'll get it either taken out of service or fix it. And, you know, we know from previous years that tools will break, all right? But we buy high quality tools here for the most part, and Milwaukee will stand up to almost anything. But remember, it's designed to do one thing: drill holes. All right? So try not to destroy the equipment. But when you're done with it, we want all our tools that you use blown off with the air hose outside, rolled back up. Now if you're in the training session, you may be going through what is known as a round robin operation. Well, that's okay, but be sure it's unplugged. All tools have to be unplugged before you move on to another station. All right? So those are the two drills that you're going to be using here. In other classes, you will be using other drills such as the right angle drill. All right? That's for the electricians and the plumbers. All right? That has a lot of torque too. I could tell you some war stories on that. All right? But be very careful. Safety first. Understand the tools. Don't walk away to the next tool until you fully understand. And that means if you drill 2 holes and you know what you're doing with it, that's great. If you take this whole 2x4 and drill holes in it, that's perfectly okay. All right? We want to give you the opportunity, because most of you, this is going to be the first time you've ever seen these tools. All right? And I want you to leave comfortable. Comfortable about knowing how to use a tool and how to use it properly.